Okay, Lloyd Chapman here with another riveting episode of Memory Lane. I talked about this I think in the intro, but about 18 months ago, I was involved in a really bad car wreck and I suffered a traumatic brain injury and permanent brain damage. My doctors say that if I work really hard, I can get back to 80 to 90% of what I used to be. So when I remember um, something from the past that I think would be good for memory lane, I write it on these little post-it notes. I have my kitchen, and I stick them all over my kitchen cabinet. So here's one that says Obama tries to close the SBA, public citizens slighted. So here's this story. So every president is pressured to try to close the Small Business Administration. That's because the Small Business Administration administers the Small Business Act that says that 23% of all federal contracts should go to small businesses. Well, the crooked big businesses out there, particularly in the Pentagon, Defense and Aerospace Army, they want 100% of all government spending. They want every freaking penny, right? And they just about got it. And so they got to get rid of that law that says 23% goes to small businesses, because in 2020, that's about small business should be getting 350 billion. Of course, they're not. They're getting maybe like 30. But anyway, so the Pentagon has been lobbying since Ronald Reagan was president to close the SBA. By the way, go to your computer and search on Ronald Reagan closing the SBA. You'll find the stories. If you can't, it's on my website. I've got the news program. I got them from Vanderbilt University. I got the original news stories that were on, I think, NBC and ABC about Reagan trying to close the Small Business Administration. So every president is pressured to close the SBA by big businesses, right? So Obama came up with this plan. By the way, going back to Reagan, the way they want to close the SBA is combine it with the Department of Commerce. That's like combining the NAACP and the Ku Klux Klan, right? The U.S. Chamber of Commerce represents Fortune 500 firms, the biggest companies in America that own the government, that every member of Congress and the president essentially work for. And the Small Business Administration represents the 30 million small businesses where most of you work, right? The small businesses that create about 98% of all net new jobs. They're responsible for half the gross domestic product, over half the gross domestic product, over half the private sector workforce, over 90% of all U.S. exports, and the vast majority of technological innovations in this country come from small businesses. So Obama comes up with this scheme, this crooked, slimy scheme to close the SBA, and he's going to streamline government. That's right. We're going to streamline government, we're going to make this government run much more efficiently by combining agencies. Well, guess what? The only agencies he was going to combine was the SBA and the Commerce Department. Well, that's Ronald Reagan's plan to close the SBA and kill all federal programs for small businesses, woman-owned small businesses, minority-owned small businesses, veteran-owned small businesses, and hub-zone small businesses, right? So yeah, he's going to streamline government by closing the smallest agency in government with an annual budget that back in those days was maybe 800 million. So let's not worry about the Pentagon, who lost 6.5 trillion, right? Let's not worry about that. Google, Pentagon loses 6.5 trillion. Read that story. Yeah, he's going to streamline government and cut government, make government more efficient by closing this little tiny agency with a budget of 700 million, which in the government is just that's like pennies on the ground that you wouldn't pick up, right? So I'm wise to this bullshit, right? So I start going on TV and talking about it. Actually, I went on RTTV and talked about it. I like that one. Go look at my appearance on RTTV. And at the same time, he's going to streamline government by closing the Small Business Administration with an annual budget of at that time like 800 million. He's going to give 8 billion to Africa to build, I think it was windmills, right? So he's going to close the only agency in this government to help the 30 million small businesses where most of you work. Going to streamline government, but he's going to give Africa 8 billion to build windmills, I think it was. Bullshit, right? So for years, when the Small Business Administration releases their report on the government's compliance with the 23% small business goal, they had traditionally put it out Friday afternoon about 3 o'clock, preferably before a 3-day weekend, right? So they try to bury it so nobody will report on it. And they've been very successful on that, right? So this time, Obama's going to release the information um, in a press conference with the entire cabinet present. And so I'm like, yeah, he's gonna announce he's closing it. So to try to close it without the public being outraged, he's going to make it look like we're doing small business a favor by combining the SBA with the Commerce Department. The agency that represents the Fortune 500 firms have been trying to close it for 30 years, right? And so I figured this out. I've been doing this, fighting these clowns for 30 years, right? So I know what you're doing. So I got lucky, and Public Citizen had contacted me about a month or two before that, and they were doing a investigative report on the government cheating small businesses and reporting contracts to Fortune 500 firms as small business awards. And the guy talked to me, quite a bit. And one thing that I was missing from that story is every year, if anyone asks the SBA, why are Fortune 500 firms getting small business contracts? They go, oh, it's miscoding, computer glitches, simple human error. And I told this guy like 10 times, ask him why this random error, this miscoding, 100% of the time reports contracts to Fortune 500 firms as small business awards, and it never reports contracts to small business as large business awards, right? On a federal contract, you're small or large, like heads or tails, right? So a true random error would be half the time a contract to a small business would be miscoded as a large business contract, and half the time a contract to a large business would be miscoded as a small business contract. But what we see is since 2002, 100% of the time, this alleged miscoding, computer glitches, simple human error always cheats small businesses and diverts contracts to small business contracts to Fortune 500 firms. This guy would not ask them that question. But anyway, he did write a story called Slighted. So I want to say that Obama was going to have this White House press conference, announcing the small business numbers on I think it was Thursday, something like that, right? And I was certain he was going to announce he was going to close the SBA, combine with the Department of Commerce, and making it look like, oh, we're going to help small businesses and increase our commitment to small businesses by combining these two agencies, so we'll have a lot more resources to help small businesses. Bullshit, right? They're going to close it. So he's going to announce this on Thursday. Well, this Slighted story came out on Tuesday, and it got a lot of press, right? And on Wednesday, there was a telephone press conference with the head of the SBA. I can't remember her name, some woman, with all these journalists. Well, this one guy that had read the Slighted report, and there was going to be a press conference on Thursday. There was going to be like a real press conference on Thursday. This one on Thursday was kind of like a pre-press conference discussion. I think they're trying to kind of feel these guys out about, what they're going to do. Maybe they're, thinking back on it now, maybe they're going to see if they'd read this, Slighted report. They were like testing the waters, right? So this one guy, I think it was on Wednesday, told the head of the SBA that in the press conference the next day, he was going to ask him about this, Slighted report and the diversion of federal small business contracts to large businesses. That afternoon, after this telephone press conference, they announced they were canceling that meeting. Right? This big White House, press conference with the full cabinet, they canceled it. Why? Because of this report from Public Citizen called Slighted. Look it up. Google it, Slighted. and they couldn't go out there and say we're going to combine the SBA with the Commerce Department after this report came out from a very reputable um, watchdog group that says, yeah, you're fabricating your small business numbers, you're cheating the small business, you're cheating the public, and so thanks to Public Citizen and the American Small Business League, we were able to stop President Obama from closing the Small Business Administration by using the tried and true Republican plan of combining with SBA with the Department of Commerce. I'll probably do a separate video on this, but a few years later, Senator Burr came out with the same proposal to combine the SBA with the Department of Commerce. And I went on Fox Television, Fox News, and debated Fran Tarkington, the football player, on that issue. And of course, I beat him. And but yeah, Senator Burr tried that. Oh gosh, I don't know what year that was. 2010, 12, something like that. But you can, find that. That video is on my website, and where Fran Tarkington and I were debating whether combining the SBA with the Commerce Department was going to help small businesses, right? But by the way, I'm sort of apolitical. I've been disappointed by both political parties. And when I was a kid, my father was a Republican. I went to elementary school with an I like Ike button, right? And when Obama ran, I thought he was, going to be the man of the people. Well, I was wrong. I've been disappointed. When Bush was elected, I'm from Texas, right? So when Bush was elected, my father knew his father. And I think when I was a kid, I played with he and Jeb in the hallway one time at a Harris County Republican Party meeting at the Shamrock Hilton Hotel in Houston, right? So when he was elected president, I'm like, yay, a Texas guy's going to be president. Within a matter of days, he started trying to close the SBA. During the Bush presidency, he cut the SBA budget staffing by 50%. One 29-year veteran of the SBA told me Bush had laid off the core competency of the SBA. So, yeah, Republicans have tried to close the SBA, much more than Democrats, have. But again, every president's pressure to close the SBA. But we stopped Obama from doing it with the help of Public Citizen. So I'm Lloyd Chapman. Thanks for watching.